What's up, y'all? And welcome back to Dad Needs to Talk. I'm your host, Robert, and today I am going to be diving into Severance. Now, this is a TV show that is 9 episodes long. I believe it was on Apple Plus, Apple TV Plus, whatever it's called. And it is classified as a as a bunch of stuff, but let's just say it's kind of like a sci-fi psychological thriller with drama and mystery and all that good stuff. Now, what I will say up front about Severance is that if you are watching the video version of this and you see the artwork, the cover image here, or if you're listening on podcast services and it's in my thumbnail, or you go Google Severance TV show, if anything about this image looks interesting to you and piques your interest, then go watch it. And the reason why I'm just saying that up front is because this is definitely one of those shows that is a full-on recommended blind watch. Just because, I will kind of give like mild spoiler free setup of what it is, just to give a little bit more context before I get into actual spoilers. So I will kind of timestamp like, okay, when I actually start hard spoilers. But I just wanted to say up front, if you want to know nothing about the show, but know that the fact that I am saying that at the top, then just go watch Severance. It is one of those type of shows. Now, moving on to the next phase. So if you do want to hear a little bit about what Severance is, without getting too deep, it basically, the basic setup for this show is that it follows these characters who work in a office building where literally their memories are severed. So basically it basically kind of like creates like split personalities, so to speak, to where your personal life is literally separate from your work life. So literal work-life separation. And just to give a little bit more context for that, basically what you do from 9 to 5 while you're at work, whatever, your outside self will never know. All you know is that you get in this elevator, and when you're going down, at some point this switch that's in your brain flips, this chip that they implanted flips, and you basically, that's where the separation happens. So your outside self, all you know is that, okay, hey, you're walking into the elevator at 9 o'clock, and then you're walking out at 5. Same thing on the reverse side, your work self, all you know is that, okay, hey, every day you come to at 9 o'clock and you look down, you got a new change of clothes or whatever, and you're going into work, and then 5 o'clock you're leaving, and then you're just in that constant loop. And so that is the setup for this show. And it kind of creates all these kind of like moral situations and questions and stuff like that, because of course there's a lot of people in the outside world that are for and against it or whatever, like with a lot of different choice stuff like that. But this was just like so fascinating to watch. And the thing with this show is that the setting, for the most part, the office setting is so clean that it kind of makes it eerie. And what I mean by that is that there is like it's a giant office space. So like when the characters are walking to their respective department or whatever, they go through all these long, winding, twist turning hallways and paths and stuff, whatever, to get to where they are. And it kind of reminds me of years ago. I worked at a hospital, and the hospital I worked at or whatever, there's like the old building and the new building. So of course, and for those of y'all that don't know, I do IT work. I still do IT work in the medical field, but just not at the same place. as what I'm about to talk about. But basically, this place was. It reminded me so many times of like at my old job where sometimes I got like a request for something over in the old hospital, and there are still like a few. It's like the old house, like the new hospital is like freaking 17 stories, and the old hospital is like 10, and there's only maybe like a few of those floors have active, teams and people and stuff in it or whatever, and so there'll be certain times to where we have to go through certain sections of the old hospital, and there might be like one team on this majority abandoned floor, and it just kind of gave me those same creepy vibes that I got back at that working that job or whatever. Um, but like I said, it's just like the environment is just so clean, and the main cast of characters kind of starts off with a cast of four people working in this office space or whatever. Um, and yeah, that's just like that just makes the show just so fascinating from jump. Is like I said, just that basic premise, and then just trying to put yourself in their shoes of like, man, what what kind of life would that be? And I don't know which side of that I would want to be on. It's like I don't know. I think I might want to be on the outside part of it, just because you can move around, you can go and do stuff for the other 9 8 hours of the day that you're working. You can still go, be with your family, go to the club, go partying, go bowling, go watch a movie or whatever, versus you're just literally in your office space with the handful of people that you're around with every day. And I don't see that as a proper life to live. Like I said, especially when it's like you're not really making a lot of even just like personal choices of like, oh, what am I gonna wear today? It's like your work self, all you know is that you black out at 5 o'clock and you come back to 9 o'clock the next day with a different set of clothes, and you're like, okay, I guess this is what I'm wearing today. So I think if I had to choose what side to be on, probably the outside side. Uh, but it's also like, what am I even working towards? What is my job even doing? But I guess in some sense, I guess some people are like, hey, if that check is clearing every week, every 2 weeks, whatever the pay period is, or whatever, then hey, who cares? Um, but yeah, so like I said, that's kind of like the basic general nutshell premise of this show. And the other kind of like slight hint I'll give with this, or like just kind of like for comparison's sake, um, I would say if you were a fan of specifically like those early seasons of Westworld, then Severance might be something that you're into as well. And also kind of like just like flipping that or whatever. If you have watched Severance and you enjoyed it, but you've never watched Westworld, then that might be something that I would recommend you go and check out, because there are some similar vibes with kind of like there's more than meets the eye. This setting that you're in seems kind of eerie and slightly off, whatever, before they actually reveal, like, oh, okay, this is what's going on, this is the twist or whatever. But this was just very fascinating to watch, as like I said, just like things just start to slowly unfold and unravel, which I will go into specifics in a second. But yeah, this show just did such a great job of just slowly easing you in. Maybe it was a little slow at first, but for myself, I don't mind those slow burn shows, because I've talked about plenty of other TV shows, movies, anime, manga, etc., that kind of have a slow setup. But if it's interesting enough, whatever, to keep my attention, then I'm all for it. And I enjoyed the cast of characters that they had. I enjoyed as the show kept going and we kept on getting an expanded cast of characters both in the office and outside of the office. And then as, like I said, some of those things start to like bleed over and intersect and all that stuff, whatever, was just super dope to watch. So with that being said, go watch Severance if you haven't, because now I'm about to dive into some very spoilery specifics. So y'all got 10 minutes spoiler free. Now let's talk about more of this show. So, first of all, screw them for that cliffhanger. They truly left us hanging, man. Like, them stopping the show where they did, it was like a super gut punch, and especially with, the writer strike and stuff going on right now. Who knows, what that delay might potentially do for the next season, because they were working on another season, because this show originally aired last year in 2022, but it is what it is. But yeah, so diving into this show, all the various pieces that were slowly unraveling, and forgive me, but I might kind of jump all over, but hey, if you're listening at this point or whatever, then hopefully you've already watched it, because like I said, I'm going to be kind of jumping around just like at different key points or whatever. But the kind of like first couple of things when the bleed over of the two worlds started happening was realizing that his freaking boss was his next door neighbor, and then also finding out that not everybody has their memories severed. So there are some people like the manager that she knows what's going on inside and out. And so, because at first it was like when you first introduced her, it was like, whoa, she lives next door. But it's like, man, that's wild that they live next to each other, but they don't know. But then it's like, nah, she knows. And it's probably not a coincidence that she lives next door. Because I believe he mentioned that there's not many other people that live on their street anyway. So, but yeah, so when that happened, and then of course when Petey started showing up and stuff, whatever, and then started basically kind of like planting the seeds of doubt early on, to where it's like, okay, who's this guy in a suit showing up? And then it's like, oh, okay, this is the coworker that went missing. And then, eventually his mind started going crazy, and then he ended up dying and stuff. But I'm wanting to know more about what happened with that operation. I want to know more about the lady that kind of helped do the operation on him, and that also kind of ended up helping to take out that security guard towards the end of the season or whatever. Just because, like I said, it's just so much I want to know about all of this stuff. I want to know about what other freaking departments there are within the office space, whatever. Like the freaking, what is up with the little department with the baby goats? That was super weird, because at first, like when I was hearing like what eventually was the goats bad sound, I thought at first I was like, is there like a baby or something right up in here? I was like, no, baby goats. Well, it was a baby, but baby goats. But that happening, the other kind of like really heart-wrenching moment and just like oh crap moment for me too was when the realization, and let me see, Dylan, when they revealed that they can freaking flip your switch even when you're outside of the office building. And what's his name, Milchick, when he was at freaking Dylan's house. Because at first when they showed like the kid counting, because the episode title was like a hide and seek or whatever, or tag, and the little kids counting, I'm like, okay, who's this kid or whatever, and then we see the guy, I'm like, oh, okay, we see his outside life, and then we see Milchick there, and then he does like this like countdown, and then like you hear the sound when they're like switching over, and he's like, whoa, is this my house? And then when the freaking kid comes in, he's like, wait, is that my kid? I have a kid? Bruh. And then they quick, hey, got the information. All right, kill the switch. And now his work self has the information, and it's just like now he's internally tortured, because beforehand, it's just like they can just kind of like imagine and daydream what their outside lives are. Which, speaking of which, the whole naming convention for the Innie and Audi, just so freaking weird, and just that kind of like weird but unsettling nature of this environment. But yeah, so like him finding out that information, and now it's like that's like internally torturing him with that information and stuff. And then the other big twist, we're freaking finding out that freaking Mark's wife is the kind of like counselor lady. What do they call her? Uh what is why can't I find out her name? Miss Casey. Yeah, the wellness counselor. Yeah, the wellness counselor. Finding out that that is his wife, who was supposedly died 2 years ago in a car accident, is actually here as this wellness counselor. It's like, okay, we need to find out in season 2 what the heck is up with that situation. Because that's just that much crueler, to where he came here because he wanted to go through with the severance to kind of help him cope with dealing with the loss of his wife, only to find out that he's been seeing her around the office all this time, while also towards the end of the season, at least in the office setting, kind of kissing the other chick, Helly, who was also revealed to be the freaking daughter of the CEO of the freaking company. And it's just like all these intersecting threads and stuff, man, was just, it just kept on going and going, and the reveals and this and that, man, was just freaking fantastic. And of course the big, well, I guess kind of like leading up to the big finale of, like I said, Mark meeting up with the lady who helped Petey set, like change, or I guess like override his thing or whatever. Which, sorry for all these tangents, whatever. I just like recalling stuff as I'm talking, but like the freaking boss extracting the chip at the freaking funeral was wild. But yeah, so Mark meeting up with this lady at this college that he used to teach at, and then the security guards snooping around, stumbling upon them. They're knocking him out, pretty much killing him. And then the lady giving Mark the high level clearance card or whatever. And then that kind of just like opened the door even further for more shenanigans and just things to continue to fall apart and stuff. Which it was just crazy just to see all this stuff just like I said, just snowballing out of control, while still also trying to keep that eeriness and somewhat normality of the office setting as much as they could. But freaking Haley, man, she and it's just so funny and ironic how she was giving them so much hell on the inside when she was one of the biggest proponents of or supporters of this on the outside, being the freaking CEO's daughter. But her internal, her innie, was trying everything. Like, okay, well, can I smuggle out a note? Can I swallow it? Can I write something on my arms? And then her freaking, trigger warning, trying to take herself out with the freaking extension cord in the elevator. Bruh, it was just like, man, like she just kept going and going and going. And she freaking had the freaking paper cutter blade thing on, like, hey, let me record I can't think what it's called, but basically wanting to leave, wanting to quit, or I'm gonna chop off my fingers, whatever. And then seeing her record it, or they're like, okay, they let her record it or whatever. And then she got on the elevator to leave and came back with a different recording disc of herself being like, hey, I know, blah, blah, blah. But basically being like, hey, you're not a human. You have no importance. I make all the decisions or whatever. We are not quitting or whatever. That was just wild to see. But then, like I said, just all this stuff snowballing to the big finale of at the end of this show, them working together, which the fantastic dance sequence was just so dope because that whole thing, especially because that happened right after Dylan had the situation with his son. So he definitely was not in no mood for partying, which was just funny to see that flip from the beginning of the show where he's all like hurrah, rah, rah, yeah, with the company getting all his like little prizes and stuff, whatever, to where, they're like, hey, y'all met quota or whatever, so hey, you get 5 minutes of celebration party or whatever. And then Milchick freaking the disco, like the strobe lights or whatever, and they all dancing and grooving and stuff, whatever, and Milchick behind Dylan just seeing the reflection in Dylan's monitor of him just like, yeah, just having a good time, just partying behind him, and then Dylan just snapping, just like that was just so great to see. But like I said, just like that all leading to Dylan being the one to stay behind and give the other three a chance to, experience the outside world or whatever. And all of them, in some sense, was kind of like in the middle of like some big stuff, whatever, where like Mark, his outside self was going to his sister's, or his brother-in-law's celebration with, and that, Lord, so I'm recalling so much stuff. The whole book situation of how that even played out, which that's on Milchick for dropping the ball on losing the book and not even trying to hunt down what happened with the book and stuff, whatever. It's like, okay, bringing that inside and then trying to, reading whatever, then him leaving it behind during an emergency and all this stuff was just so wild. But yeah, like Mark at the thing with the brother-in-law at the book reading, and then Hella at this big speech thing for herself and her dad and stuff, whatever. And then the old guy, what is your name? Irving. His situation with what's his name? The freaking see, I hate when my mind blanks. Christopher Walken, his character, whatever, which it. I'm not gonna go into every single detail of the show, whatever, but it was just like interesting just seeing all of them go through these 3 different situations, and then like I said, us getting that finale hanger with Mark discovering that the wellness counselor that he's been seeing inside is actually his wife, and then the last thing he gets to say before Dylan gets tackled by Milchick is that she's alive to the sister or whatever. And so I'm like, man, I hope the sister picks up on that hint or whatever, and we go from there. But one other comparison I just thought of too, which I wish I would have brought this up in the beginning of my spoiler free part or whatever. But the other strong comparison, especially thinking about like the board of directors and this, reminds me of the board and stuff, whatever, in the video game Control. Now, I don't know if any of y'all, and I don't know I can't remember, do I still have Control? Hold on. Okay, so I just have a copy of Control. This game made by Remedy that came out a few years ago. It's on all systems, PlayStation 4, 5, all the Xboxes and PC. But that show, Severance, gave me some strong Control vibes as well, because this also takes place in kind of like an office setting environment where there's some supernatural stuff. This Control has more supernatural powers and stuff, whatever going on, and whatever. But this mysterious board of directors and stuff, whatever, similar thing is here in control. Um, but yeah. So I've talked long enough, whatever. Like I said, and I didn't want to go through everything beat for beat, but just kind of highlight some of like my favorite moments and stuff from the show. But Severance was super dope. Like I said, once again, I am so happy that I went into it blind. Uh, but yeah, so, and like I said, just recommending like, hey, if you're looking for another show like it, check out Westworld. If you're looking for a game, like similar vibe, but of course like more action heavy, whatever. But like the eerie, unsettling office setting and stuff, whatever. Control is definitely one I highly recommend. Super super fun, dope game. Um, but yeah, with that, I think that's gonna be it. I don't think there's nothing else I wanted to touch on with the show. Like I said, just like fantastic cast of characters, great premise and stuff, whatever. Like I said, just like really makes you think of like, man, I don't think I would want to be in that situation, because now I'm also wondering. Sorry to do a little bit of theory crafting at the end, but like I'm wondering if there might be a situation to where I think it would be interesting if all the characters had the roles flipped to where the switch got flipped or whatever, but in reverse to where the Audis, I hate saying that, but the Audis got trapped inside of the office building and then had to figure out how to get out or whatever, and stuff. So, but yeah, like I said, it was just very fascinating just seeing like that separation of stuff of, even from like how they staggered, the time that they all arrived to the time when they all was leaving to try to avoid them running into each other and stuff, whatever. At least like on a regular basis. A couple of them they kind of like loosely, bump into each other, whatever. But for the most part, they kind of staggered their coming in and out of work and stuff, whatever. Also, I can't believe I didn't even talk about this the freaking very beginning when Haley is on the table. I loved how they show that same scene twice, originally from Haley's perspective, but then also from Mark's perspective of how he was behind the camera and why he was even in that position to begin with and stuff, to her trying to leave out the door but kept on basically like looping and coming back in or whatever. And all that stuff was just like very fascinating, just like them showing how this stuff kind of works early on, and then like I said before, it starts to like, okay, showing a little bit how the stuff works, the separation and stuff, whatever, showing what the normal day-to-day loosely is, and then things slowly start to unravel, and then we meet other people from other departments and all this stuff, whatever. But great show. Like I said, especially got me to give Durner a 30-minute discussion or whatever. But I think I'm going to stop right there. So, as always, thank you so much for watching and or listening. You can find me everywhere at Danny's to Talk, where it's all about fatherhood and family, manga, anime and TV, and video games. And with that, I'm out. Y'all be easy, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.